Hello. Today we'll be discussing the 1980 election between the incumbent Jimmy Carter, Liberal, represented by Lee Arritt and Mr. Williams, and on the opposing side we have Kayla and Mr. O, who will be representing Richard Nixon on the Conservatives.
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
Richard Nixon.
Ronald Reagan on the Conservative side. First, I will address the rules. You must limit yourself to the Carter administration. No evidence that goes past the year of 1980. You must let the person finish before you decide to speak. No interrupting unless you are the moderator, which is me. No swearing, no yelling, and let others talk, don't talk. So first, we will address the economic situation in America at this time. We will have the Liberal side go first.
Okay. Well, in the recent developments, we have found out that our economy is being weighed down by stagflation. So, as a representative of the Carter administration, we are proposing a plan that will combat this stagflation by decreasing the involvement of, we'll be combating the real causes of stagflation, which are a shortage of natural resources and an act of war. So by combating a shortage of natural resources this year, the Carter administration has helped create 800 million tons of coal, which will be used as fuel for America instead of us buying from companies like OPEC. We'll be able to create our own fuel, which will decrease our economic dependency upon outside nations.
Just to clarify, the opposition has made the argument that stagflation has primarily occurred due to a lack of incentive on the part of the administration, and we need to take issue with that fact. Stagflation is caused by two primary things. One, the supply shock theory indicates that the loss of oil because of OPEC's actions and a severe oil shortage there, combined with the Nixon administration's monetary policies, which significantly loosened monetary policies after years of war against Vietnam, created a expansionary fiscal policy and monetary policy far beyond that which any Keynesian in his right mind would have argued for. And this is why he's taken steps to expand the use of natural resources, contrary to what the opposition has argued for, and why he's lowered tax rates for the basic people. Not necessarily for the upper class, which is what the opposition has argued for, but for the middle and lower classes, and that's what we want to focus on, in getting the economy back on track, which we're well on our way to doing with Volker's actions, as well as my own within the administration.
Okay, well you made some of the arguments for us. It is our turn, correct?
Yes.
All right, so you made some of the arguments for us and presented a portion of what our position is on certain issues. Regarding the problems that we've been facing, it's because of the overinflated government spending that's been going on. That is increased significantly under your administration, or under the Liberal administration of Jimmy Carter. The other issue that we have is that government spending combined, and the stagflation that's been going on over the last several years has been really the thing that's putting especially the middle and lower class in a position of that is hurting them economically. So what we need to do to present our side of the issue is we need to cut the government spending significantly, and we need to lower income taxes so that everyday Americans have more money in their pockets to put into our economy, which will historically show that it will improve the economy, which we need to do right now.
And you also talk about our side voting for the upper class. When in fact during the Carter administration, by the 1980 election, unemployment was at a high of 12%. And And starting at Carter administration, it was 7.7% after Ford left office. Now, I know genius here, but I'm saying Carter's not doing something right if unemployment rose from 7.7% to 12%. And inflation went from 4.8% during the Ford administration to 6.8% by 1976. So we have a lot of government spending, not just natural resources that need to be changed, but the spending of the government. And the minimum wage now is $5.50. But when you go to Germany, it's around $9.20. So we have more money being spent by the government that's not being given to our lower class that is in poverty and is at an all-time low. We need to fix that, not just natural resources. We need more jobs, and we need to cut government spending.
And might I cut in here again to make an additional point? In the years prior to the Jimmy Carter administration, 61% of America's oil was produced in America itself. Since then, that has decreased steadily throughout your administration, and it started in the Ford administration, but the amount of oil that America produces has decreased. So we're much more dependent on foreign oil now than we ever were.
And I'd also like to add that during the Ford administration, he lowered our debt ceiling, but Carter administration, he doubled it. So
We'd like an opportunity to respond to some of those claims.
You have your chance now.
First of all, we want to address history. One of the points brought up by the opposition was that it put more money back into the hands of the everyday Americans. That Reagan's argued that this is some new idea. What he's arguing for is supply-side economics. Guys, this was practiced in 1920. It didn't work so well with those Republican administrations. It led to the Great Depression. Second thing that we want to address, you brought up that unemployment reached 12%. That happened a few years ago. Unemployment currently is at 5.9%. Inflation, while it has gone up in the past, during the Carter administration, it is on the process of going down, thanks in large part to Paul Volcker's heavy involvement with the Federal Reserve. In addition to that, Carter has been persuaded by some of the environmentalist arguments, many of which have caught hold, largely because of the actions of leaders like Rachel Carson and her DDT and the role that that plays. The argument of simply to expand on U.S. oil production isn't exactly benefiting the American people, and by making the argument that we simply need to consume isn't necessarily helping with that either. In addition to that, I want to challenge Reagan's math in terms of the balanced budget that he's supported there. How on earth are we creating a balanced budget when we are proposing massive expenditures in military spending, while at the same time getting at what he argues to be some of the largest tax cuts in the last several decades? Not sure how all that adds up.
Oh, also, with what Mr. Williams just said, Reagan wants to cut the U.S. government spending by $130 billion, and also, as he has said before, that would mean that we would be spending less, but yet he wants to increase the military budget by nearly 100%. And in doing that, he also wants to decrease the taxes for the American people by 56%, and those numbers just won't add up. Also, with our opponent's new Reagan-Kemp proposal for the tax cuts, it's actually going to create more inflation that our country has ever seen in years before, because it is based on inflationary ideas like the supply side theory, which is only going to increase our deficit by nearly, if our calculations are correct, with the Carter administration, 400% in the years ago.
Which his own Bush candidate competing against Reagan had called voodoo economics.
if I may cut in,
We need to address that there's a time limit. Each side has 6 minutes in total.
I was unaware of that.
So what we might want to do is maybe allow minute and a half, minute and a half, minute and a half, minute and a half. That's what I would recommend for the next part, just so we each have a chance to respond. Oh man, you guys started out. Oh damn, that was some.
I would really love to respond
In your
to
face.
your accusation.
You guys actually
face,
have
Brett.
2 more minutes left.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
well, how convenient.
Continue. I would love to respond to your accusations about our deficit and it will be rising by 400%. But by the 1980 election, our deficit was at an all-time high of $59 billion and approximately 8 million people out of work. Now, again, I'm not a genius here. Reagan does want to cut some of our spending, but cutting some of our spending would actually create more jobs. Plus, it would not have that much more inflation, goods would go down. The lower class family can actually support their family and buy food for their children.
As proud Americans, as I know you are, the supply side economics that occurred in the 1920s, as you would know as intelligent people, there have been many regulations that have been put in place to ensure that the stock market itself does not have such fluctuations, so that it would reach the point of causing a stock market crash and a Great Depression that ensued. There are many regulations in place since then. We have no intention of taking those safety nets out of place for the stock market, and with that said, that would safeguard us from having another incident and period of time such as the Great Depression.
Okay, now we will address the second issue of international affairs. I will let the conservative side address it first.
You want me to go first? Okay, so obviously, liberals have been extremely weak on this issue, not only with Cold War issues, which I believe we will address later, but you've also been very weak in international relations. Our hostages have been in Iran, in Tehran, have been, there's been no progress in that the American people can see. Every single American in the United States cares and wants to see those hostages freed. However, it's been months that there's been no progress and there's been no news in whether those people are ever going to be freed, whether they're safe. There's been a few occurrences where they've checked in on the people to ensure that they were all safe, and a few of them were released. Women and children were released in 79. However, there are still 53 hostages that are in grave danger because of the lack of effort on the liberal side under the Carter administration.
Addressing the Iran hostage situation, the Iranians have offered for Carter to pay a ransom for the hostages, which Carter then refused. And now they're punishing the hostages by threatening to kill them. That's 53 people that will probably not see their families again. But aside from the Iran hostage situation, I would like to address the Panama Treaty Canal signing. Carter has always perceived himself as a people pleaser. He wanted to please America. He wanted to do right by the Americans. The Americans did not like the signing of the Panama Canal Treaty. It was very unpopular, and he said we should not continue to negotiate. We should continue to negotiate with the Panamanians for sovereignty. He did sign the treaty, but it did make him very unpopular with the American society, which he may not get reelected again.
How much time do we have?